These are your Part 1 notes for the Industrial Revolution. Make sure that you fill in these notes and prepare to discuss this information in class. The Industrial Revolution occurs during the late 18th and early 19th century. It is a transition in how goods are produced, who's producing them, where they're produced, where people live, and there's a transition in agriculture, transportation, etc. If you recall from the last unit, we discussed the War of 1812 and how that would spur economic growth in the United States and the Industrial Revolution in the United States. Positive effects from this war included that the United States had to be self-sufficient in manufacturing, so we had a domestic production of goods instead of relying on imports. The free enterprise system also emerges during this time frame where you're dealing with the laws of supply and demand to determine the price and production of products. Nationalism increases, and that's that intense sense of pride in one's nation. Foreign respect increases because we fight Britain once again and we don't lose. Okay, no clear winner in this war, but we don't lose it either. And there's also a decrease in dependence on cottage industries. Cottage industries are where people are producing things in the home, so small scale production. Some quick vocabulary to make sure that you understand as we go through this unit includes industrialization, urbanization, free enterprise, push factors, and pull factors. Industrialization is when the economy goes from being based on agriculture to being based on manufacturing and other industries. Industrialization is really going to occur mainly in the northern parts of the United States during this time frame. Urbanization is where your towns begin to look and feel a lot more like cities. A lot of this happens as people are migrating to different towns where jobs are located. The free enterprise system is your economy that's based on products, prices, and services, and that's determined by the market. Again, supply and demand rather than the government. Push factors are anything that makes someone leave an area, and pull factors draw people to a certain location. So you may be pushed away from a region because of war or famine. You may be pulled to a region because of jobs and because of rights that may be protected. Some of your causes for rapid industrialization and urbanization in the United States during this time frame include that geography limits farming in the north. If you recall back from our colonial era, we talked about the New England colonies having rocky soil and the fast-moving rivers. Those fast-moving rivers are going to have the water that's necessary to power the machines. You need that fast current of the river to power the machines that begin the Industrial Revolution. New inventions will occur during this time frame, as well as the trade restrictions that were held during the War of 1812 because of blockades. More jobs are going to be located in cities, and your transportation and housing are going to encourage migration to the cities as transportation improves and as housing moves from, in some cases, being just small cottages to tenements and kind of what we would reflect as apartments currently. There are also plentiful natural resources, as this is the beginning of industrialization. Transportation changes are going to drastically change the way of life in America. Transportation before the Industrial Revolution included horses and buggies, your little wagons that would get stuck in the mud, wouldn't do very well going over rocky soil, definitely wouldn't get you across the mountains very well, to settlers and immigrants being able to move west in search of different business opportunities as the government begins to build roads and railroads in order to promote the free enterprise system. So we're starting to move away from that time where you didn't have the planes, trains, and automobiles to really get people to and from places very quickly. You'll notice with this transportation change that you have steamboats that are allowing you to get upriver now and go against the current, and you have an increase in railroad lines that are really going to connect areas, specifically the Midwest and the Northeast. The Erie Canal is going to be one of those great transportation revolutions. The Erie Canal is located in New York. Your towns are going to grow along the canals where boats are stopping to load and unload products coming from the factories. The building of the canal occurs from 1817 to 1825. The canal is 363 miles long, which is much further than any other American or European canal. A quarter of the workers are going to be Irish immigrants, and the canal will be used as an inland route to ship goods. The effect of the canal is that it's going to cause shipping prices in the Midwest to decrease, and it makes it possible to get goods from the West to New York City. As these transportation systems develop, your price of goods are going to decrease because you have shipping prices that go down. With that, the prices of the items are going to go down as well. Robert Fulton invents the steamboat, and this is going to be a revolution in travel as well because you can go up and down the river. Okay, you're not having to just focus on going with the current of the river or waiting for wind in your sails and things of that nature. So similar to the railroad, it is going to make it less costly to ship goods. Some of your effects of the railroad system is that it'll speed up transportation, it lowers your freight charges, it links the Northeast and the Midwest and increases communication because you're not having to wait so long to get news from one place to the other. It opens up new markets for goods that you may not have been able to travel through with traditional transportation. And a negative effect is going to be the pollution that it causes. Henry Bessemer is going to invent the steel production process that makes it cheaper to produce steel, and that has a major impact on your westward expansion as you're able to build more railroads even more cheaply. You notice by 1870 that most of your railroads are going to be located in the Northeast and in the Midwest. You do have the long stretch of the Transcontinental Railroad that connects the far west to the Northeast. You will notice also that there are limited rail lines in the southern states, which will definitely become a factor as we talk about the Civil War and how they're not able to get goods to and from battles very quickly. Positive impacts of the improvements in transportation include you having a greater connection between the regions of the North, the West, and the South. Your roads and canals are going to, again, reduce shipping costs and contribute to the development of cities. Railroads also lead to the development of cities and increases your markets for goods. The Transcontinental Railroad, once it's complete, opens up westward settlement for Manifest Destiny, which we'll get to soon. And urbanization of the North is also going to increase as you have more products that are available to people, more jobs end up becoming open, more people are going to move to factories. Negative effects of the Industrial Revolution and urbanization include air pollution that comes with it, destroying the natural environment, and also the spread of slavery. When we're thinking about these innovations, you want to also keep in mind which one you personally may think has the greatest impact on the increase in urbanization, as we discuss this in class soon. Part of your innovation is going to be in creating factories, and Samuel Slater is known as the father of the factory system. So he makes goods in factories with machines more efficiently than making them by hand. So this is what's going to move people from the cottage industry to the factory system, where you have all the means of production from the beginning of the product to the very end of it done under one roof. The early U.S. factory system is going to have your factories located near the water because they're powered by a water frame. You need the fast-moving rivers, once again, to be able to power the mills. They encourage urbanization as workers are going to move closer to the factories for better paying jobs because they're not able to compete with factory-produced items if they're working in a cottage industry. Often the factories are going to employ entire families for low wages. Women can work outside of their home, and your families are motivated by the growing conditions in the North being very poor. Again, the rocky soil does not advocate for the North being an agricultural society. All right, the Lowell Mills are going to be where a lot of young farm women are going to work and live in boarding houses in dorms. So they live on the same property in which the factory is located that they work. Many of them come looking for these jobs from rural areas so that they can provide for their families They follow very strict rules. They attend church, they learn to read, and become the marrying type, so to speak. The working conditions are deafening and dangerous. It is loud. There aren't the protections that exist now when it comes to workers' compensation and safety standards. The pay is high very early on, but it's going to plummet with more competition and more people being available to take positions. A lot of your factory entrepreneurs are not going to want to pay high wages. Okay, the textile mills, the Lau mills, were created by Francis Cabot Lau, who primarily used female workers. A lot of that has to do with, again, the cost of what you pay your employees. Men, they'd have to pay a more full rate. Women, they typically could pay half. And then children, as we move to child labor, are paid about a quarter of what women or what the men were paid. So you can see in this image some pictures of the Lao girls, and that there are no safety standards by any means. So hair gets caught into these moving parts, fingers, limbs. It's a very dangerous situation. New England is going to dominate in the textile factories, again, because initially they're run off of water power, and the water frame needs the fast-moving rivers of New England. And you'll notice that there are fewer and fewer factories as we go south. These are textile factories, and textiles is just a simple, or another way of saying a woven fabric. So clothing, things of that nature. Steam power is greatly going to change where the factories are located. After the 1850s, steam engines are going to run the mills and then replace the water frames, and that allows factories to be moved away from the water and wherever they want to be. This steam power increases the production of goods and also allows you to use unskilled laborers, and that increases the demand for factory labor as well, as more and more factories are going to pop up. Eli Whitney is going to invent interchangeable parts during this time frame as well. It's first used in the production of guns, makes it for faster production and easier repair of manufactured goods. Instead of having to throw out a whole part, a whole item, you can just replace parts very simply. It allows unskilled workers, because each person is just responsible for one little thing, putting one part on the item, and then you just move it on down an assembly line. This leads to mass production techniques in many industries. Right. Negative effects of rapid urbanization include the limited space leading to cramped living quarters, very poor sanitation, which leads to spread of diseases. Crime is going to increase as well as risk of fires in apartment buildings. Immigrants struggle with language and poverty as they come to the U.S. looking for these factory jobs that they've heard about. Anti-immigration sentiment is going to be very common as immigrants are working for lower wages than native-born Americans, and they feel like they've been ousted from their jobs. And you'll have discrimination towards immigrants, women, and children as they're taking these jobs as well. All right, we will pick up with the second part of your notes the next time. Make sure that you're ready to discuss what we have so far with transportation in a factory system.